you would like me to tell the former Speaker of the House. So be sure to fill that out and give that back to me. So I want to turn it over to you guys. What questions do you have or concerns? I know you're not shy. Sure.
Where should we go with health care? You know, everybody wants health care. Everybody says they want it. What's the proper plan? That's the question. I think you're going to have to articulate, aren't you?
I do. Okay. And I totally agree with that, because I think the answer is not just no. I mean, I got asked today, how would I have voted for it? The answer is, I would have voted no in committee when Zach Space voted yes. I would have voted no on the House of the floor on the first time when Zach Space voted yes. And I would have voted no the third time when he then went from his 2 yes votes to his no vote. I would have voted no every time. But that doesn't mean there's not real solutions, because there are. Let's take the one provision of that bill that I talked to you about that Kendra did. That's something we needed. 7 million uninsured Americans are 18 to 25. An easy solution to that is letting them stay on their parents' insurance until they're able to get it themselves. That's affected my family twice in the last 3 years. Both of my girls graduated from college, came off my insurance, and it was a period of time, both of them a relatively short period of time, but they went with no insurance. The problem with that is, you as the taxpayer bore the burden of that. If they had walked across the street and got hit by a semi, we would have all been paying for that when my husband and I would have been willing to just extend our coverage and didn't have the ability. So that was in there. That was a good provision. As far as I know, it's the only good provision, although I haven't read the whole thing, so maybe there's a little more that I'm unaware of. But overall, it's unconstitutional. The federal government has no ability to take over 1/6 of the economy. There were solutions they could have taken. For instance, being able to buy insurance across state lines. Interstate commerce is clearly within the duties of Congress. You could also actually go to a consumer-driven market for insurance. What other thing do you buy that you are unaware of what the cost is? If I leave here tonight and I get hit and my deductible on my car is $500, and I go to Body Shop A and they say, Jeanette, that'll be $200, and Body Shop B and they say that's $1,000, well, I'm going to go with Body Shop A. But we don't even have that information. In Minnesota, where they changed their system, not only were they able to drive down costs, they increased quality, because you let the consumers make the decision. You know, I'm still not going to go. You know, I'm still going to do the same thing with doctors that I do right now, which is, you know, we moved to New Concord. I asked everybody I knew, where do you take your kids? Who's your dentist? Who's your vet? And then, you know, when a couple people I trusted all gave me the same answer, that's who I went to. So I'm not saying you're just going to have price drive your decision, because it's something that more than price drives it. For instance, my area law, I explained to you, I'm a specialist. I don't play. In most small towns, people practice general law. I don't do that. I'm very specialized in what I do because I was on the bench for a long period of time, and that's predominantly what I did. I probably charge more for that. If you want the specialist, you're willing to pay more money, but you have the ability to choose the person who's a general practitioner. It's the same thing with medical. If we allowed customers to make decisions, then we would have a system that would function better. I think we need tort reform, but I think that's a decision that needs to be made on a state-by-state level. That doesn't mean the federal government couldn't drive that. Let's look at when they lowered the speed limit on the highway. They didn't come into Ohio and say your speed limit is now 55. They put the carrot in front of the horse and said, you know what? If you want highway improvement dollars, you need to do this. You know, tort reform could be the same thing. Say, you know what? This is what we believe is the right solution, but the state can make the decision. You know, here in Ohio, we've had some good tort reform solutions. When I started practicing law, there was no gatekeeper function on those cases. Right now in Ohio, you have to get a doctor sign an affidavit that says there is a factual basis to your lawsuit so that you can even get in the door of the courthouse. Cuts down on junk lawsuits, because you can't just say the doctor did something wrong. You actually have to have a doctor say there legitimately is a factual basis. So again, there are states that have implemented things that have been successful that we could be looking at. But the healthcare reform bills that they were looking at in Congress, they're all based on Ted Kennedy's home state. It's a failed system. It was either the auditor or the treasurer of that state was on Fox News a couple weeks ago, and he is a Democrat, and he was talking about the numbers on that health care plan and how much it's failing and how much it's costing and why it's not working. And we just took a failed piece of legislation on a state level and implemented it on a federal level. When you look at cap and trade, it passed in Spain. It failed. I have absolutely no idea why we have people in Congress who think the answer is to take failed legislation and make that the policy for the whole nation. I own a business. I'm sure many of you own a business. I don't look at the business that just went out of business next door to me and say, hey, could I have your business model? I'd like to adopt that. I mean, this is just common sense that there are real solutions to health care. But the other thing, too, is, our founding fathers never intended that you were going to have bills that were thousands of pages long. What if we actually addressed the individual issues instead of trying to throw everything in the kitchen sink so that nobody's even sure what it is or whether it's written correctly or that it's done correctly? Back in the days when you had debate and discussion about legislation, that's what we did. And in the history of our nation, anytime you've seen one party control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, 45 seats have changed hands in the next election. This is one of the 40 targeted seats in the nation. So you're sitting in ground zero for making a difference in the federal government in 2010.
I think you've probably given the answer already, but why is Zach Space voting no? Is he afraid of you and the Republicans?
Obviously I can't get inside of his head. And I'm sure if I called him, he's not looking to take my phone call. My guess is that he got a pass. Exactly, the first term he was in office, there was an illegal immigration bill that came up. And he was trying to do the whole, I'm a blue dog. I had a friend who was at an event with him in the last few weeks who said he said that 10 times. I'm like, is he thinking if he says it till he's blue in the face, it's true? I don't know. But, he's trying to, in certain votes, he knows his district. This district voted 64% for Bush. It voted 53% for McCain. It's a conservative family value district. In this district, people across party lines are pro-life. Across party lines are pro-gun. And across party lines they're fiscally conservative. Every dollar counts. I'm sure to everybody in this room, you know how many dollars you have in your wallet. I don't doubt that. So on this illegal immigration vote, in his first term in office, he got the pass. They told him, we don't need your vote. And so the vote happened, and the Democrats were going to lose. And so for the first time in, I don't know, maybe history, the computer crashed, and they lost all the votes. And there was another vote, and shockingly enough, Zach Space voted no. So he switched his vote on the same bill, on the same piece of legislation, because they needed that vote to go forward. So they had told him they didn't need it, and then they needed it, so he switched his vote. I am confident that one of two things happened here, and I honestly believe both of them happened. I think what happened is he told his constituents when they went and talked to him about health care, I don't have to listen to you, I know what's best for you. That was the arrogant position he took when he was in committee. It was the same arrogant position he took when he was voting on that House version of the bill. I think he believed the bill was dead. Or he at least believed, because here's what happens in legislation normally, normal legislative process. The House passes a version, the Senate passes a version, they have a conference committee whose job is to fit the two pieces together, and then that goes back to the House and the Senate and they vote again. What happened here is nobody envisioned Scott Brown. So the House passed their version, and the Senate passed their version with the Cornhusker kickback and Gatorade and all of those horrible buyout deals. And the expectation was it was going to go through the normal legislative process. The problem was they lost their supermajority. And so the Senate wasn't able to then do what they wanted to do. And so then the solution became the House needed to pass the Senate version. But Zach Space had already made front page news saying the Senate version is horrible and I'll never vote for that. He was already on record saying that. But when he said that, I don't think he envisioned what was going to happen.